Aloha, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us for our 41st annual Hawaii International Film Festival presented by Halekulani and our special post-screening discussion for our closing night film BELLE. Before we get started, I just want to again give a big mahalo to all of our major sponsors here at HIFF, and most especially Consolidated Theaters, who are supporting us by hosting us for all of our in-person screenings on Oahu and Maui this year, and we're very, very grateful for their support. So big mahalo to Consolidated Theaters. So, without further ado, I'm really, really excited and honored to bring with you tonight Hosoda Mamoru, who is the director of BELLE. Hello, Hosoda-san. Thank you so much for being here. For our audience at home or just watched your film, many of them are really familiar with your work. We've screened a lot of your films at HIFF, including Summer Wars, Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and Mirai, just to name a few. So before we get started, I just want to see if you wanted to say hello to our audience in theaters who've just watched your film.
見ていただいた観客へご挨拶をしていただければと思います。はい。どうもこんにちは。アニメーション映画監督の細田守です。僕の作品を見ていただいてありがとうございます。今日はね、ハワイ映画祭の中で、僕の作品に関係するいろんなことをお話したいと思います。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Hello, everyone. I'm Mamoru Hosoda here. Thank you very much for watching my movie, and I'd love to have this conversation with the Hawaii International Film Festival today. Very excited.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's jump into some questions. I think first off the bat. As many of our audience have realized by now, this film has a major homage to the film The Beauty and the Beast. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about what is so inspiring to you about this classic story.
そうですね。僕はね、もともと美女と野獣って物語が大好きで、1946年ジャンコク東版の美女と野獣も好きですけども、やはり1991年ディズニーの美女と野獣が好きですね。っていうのは僕がちょうどね大学を卒業してアニメーションの会社に入った時に、まあ結構なんか自分はアニメーションやるだけじゃなくてもっと他のことをやった方がいいんじゃないかなって悩んでた時に、美女と野獣を見てこんな素晴らしいアニメーションができるんだったらもっと頑張ってアニメーションの仕事を続けようって思わせてくれた作品なんですね。でいつか僕も、僕なりの自分の美女と野獣を作りたいと思ってアニメーションの仕事を続けました。でその作るまでに30年かかってできたのがベルというわけです。
I am actually a huge fan of the Beauty and the Beast story, going all the way back to the 1946 John Cocteau adaptation, and of course the very famous Disney's Beauty and the Beast back in 1991. And 1991 was right around when I had graduated from college, and I joined an animation studio. But it was, I struggled a bit. It was really, really tough, and I was considering, man, maybe it's time I find a different career or switch industries. But that's when I saw Disney's Beauty and the Beast, and it really inspired me because I thought, wow, you can do so much with the animation medium. So that's when I told myself, one day I'm gonna have my own interpretation of Beauty and the Beast. And it took me 30 years, but I was finally able to make it happen.
Wow, that is incredible. I'm so glad that Beauty and the Beast inspires you to keep going, because we've been able to experience so many amazing films since you did. And it's wonderful that it's 30 years in the making. That's absolutely incredible.
まあでもそんな感じですね。やっぱね、そうなんですよね。で、どういうふうに自分で作ろうかってことをずっと考えてて、まあある時やっぱりインターネットの世界で美女と野獣をやればいいんだってことを思いついたんですよ。美女と野獣の、特に野獣ですね。 暴力的な外見と心優しい魂っていう二重性と、インターネットの現実とそのインターネットの中の人格の二重性がすごくこう一致すると思ったんですね。それでこう作ってみました。
Absolutely, 30 years in the making, and part of the reason is I wasn't really sure how I could approach this subject of Beauty and the Beast, and it finally occurred to me that we should use the theme of the internet as a backdrop for Beauty and the Beast. And I'm particularly interested in the Beast because there's this kind of duality that's happening with the Beast. There's a very belligerent and violent exterior and a really kind heart in the Beast's interior. So this seemed like a good juxtaposition for our reality in which we exist in this real world, but I believe that the internet world or the cyber world is another reality where we have different projections of ourselves, and that's where the idea came to take Beauty and the Beast and put it into a backdrop of this internet age.
I see, I see. That following up on that, in addition to the duality of the beast, his rough exterior and soft interior, there's also, as you just mentioned, there's that duality between who we are in real life and who we are online. I think that's a common theme that you explore in a lot of your films, whether it's with technology or with magic or fantasy, that a character is able to become an alter ego in this other world that they create. I was wondering, just in general, what is really inspiring you about that theme?
これはね、やっぱりこう人間っていうのはね、二面性どころか何面性もある生き物っていうか、心を持ってるのが人間だと思うんですね。で、現実が一つしかないと、やっぱりその社会っていうのが現実ですよね。社会に向けてこういう自分の側面を出すっていう、本当は別の側面もあるのに、社会についてはその側面だけしか見せて、それで生まれて、そして死んでいくっていう。他の面は全然見せないまま、なんかこう、死んでいくっていうことがあったと思うんですけど、でもまあ、やっぱりね、インターネットっていう世界、もう一つの現実が増えて、もっと全然本当は見せなかった別の面っていうのを見せるとすれば、実はその何面も人間はあるんだっていうふうなことを、この二つの現実がある現在で、理解するようになったのではないでしょうか。一昔前はね、現実がしっかりとあって、インターネットっていうのはまあ単にその架空世界みたいな感じだったかもしれないですけど、今は本当にもう一つの現実を生きるってことになった。特に若い人は、生まれた時からインターネットあるんで、やっぱ二つの世界を同時に生きてるっていう感覚が普通になっていると思います。その中で人間がいかに多面的な面を、見せて、人生を楽しんでいくか、っていうふうなことがこれからのなんとか社会なんじゃないかなと思います。
I believe that humans, I know we often look at this kind of element of duality, but I believe there are many more elements or sides or components that make up human. And until now, we've only had a single reality, which is kind of our social construct in which we currently live. And there are so many other faces, so many other elements, components of what comprises a human being that we never really had the opportunity to express because of how our current reality is structured. So it's really kind of a cramped reality, if you will. And a lot of people, I think, oftentimes are born into this world only are able to show one side, one face, one component of themselves, and then die and move on, which is very, very unfortunate. But what's interesting is the internet has really evolved into another reality in so many ways, and it helped alleviate some of this cramped feeling that our single social reality has constructed. So it allows people to show many other facets or elements of themselves. And back when there was only one reality, I think the internet did feel like this kind of imaginary space. But today, what happens in the internet, I think, is very real. And you look at the younger generations who are born into a world where the internet was always present, And they are, in fact, living two realities. They have to cope with this idea that there is the real present physical and then this other real reality that exists in the internet.
Mm. Yes, I completely agree. That is very, very true. It's, you know, even 15 years ago, maybe before social media, we saw this alter reality where we could have an avatar, so to speak, as just a fantasy, and now we're actually making that come true. And I see Belle as the world of you as a visualization of that reality that we're creating.
っていう場合も現実がそこにあるんじゃないか。
そうですね。そういった意味でね、ひょっとしたら世界が2つあるっていうことをひょっとしたら、その中を若い世代も含めて僕らは生きていくんだってことを、ひょっとしたら初めてはっきり意識的に描いた映画かどうかわかりませんけど、ちょっとそういうところありますよね。そのぐらいやっぱり時代の変化っていうのは激しいんで、特にパンデミックによって僕らはそれを思い知ったわけですから。
Absolutely. And this idea that we currently exist in between two worlds, two realities, I think, and expressing it in such a, I guess, kind of concrete manner, perhaps, I don't know if my movie was the first, but I like to think that it is. Undergoing this massive shift because of COVID, I think this is happening faster than ever.
Yeah, it's accelerating at a much faster pace. I was wondering also, one of your previous films from 2009, Summer Wars, was also set, a lot of it was set in an internet reality or world. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about how your concept of that other world that you've created in BELLE has evolved from your concept of that internet reality back in Summer Wars in 2009.
その通り。だからね、そういう意味でね、サマーウォーズの時はね、まだネットの世界っていうのが本当に架空の世界だったりとか、なんていうのかな、まだまだ現実じゃなかったんだよね、あの頃っていうのは。でも今っていうのは本当に近づいたし、今例えばインターネットの世界で誹謗中傷とかね、フェイクニュースとかあるでしょ。ああいうのっていうのは、結局人間自身が生み出していることで、合わせ鏡のようにそういうふうに、反映しインターネットの中で表現されているのは、結局僕らの社会っていうのはそういうものを含んでて、それが要するに可視化されてる、みんなが見えるようになっちゃったっていう、もともと僕らの心にあるものなんだっていう気がしますよね。そういう息苦しさもあるけど、それでもやっぱね、現実が一つの時の窮屈さに比べて二つある方がやっぱのびのびとなんかね、なんか自由っていう風なものを感じながら生きることができるんではないかっていう、やっぱなるべくポジティブに捉えていきたいですよね。そんな風に映画を作ろうと思ってるんです。
The internet back in 2009 when I had made Summer Wars, I think was still a much more kind of imaginary space. It wasn't yet a reality. But you fast forward to today, and I do believe the world that exists inside the internet is in fact a reality, and the two realities are in some way kind of affecting one another. So the internet today, there's a lot of some of the more negative aspects as well of our current present reality, the toxicity, the fake news, and these are all human creations. So it's in a weird way become this mirror of our own society. But it's become much more visible and accessible to anyone, no matter where you are. And it's a real kind of projection of what we may have kept in our minds before. But on a more positive note, I think as we transition from one reality to two different realities, this idea of being so crammed and having to fit into one, it allows people to, in a way, spread their wings and let their hair down in some ways to attain different forms of freedom. So I think there's a much more positive side to this as well. And that's what I always keep in mind when I make my films.
Yeah, I think you definitely captured that very well. Of course, film has a very positive message, and you capture the positive aspects of the internet. But you also do a good job of showcasing how some of the aspects of our real world use of social media are translating, especially with these self-proclaimed guardians of you who go after the beast for his actions, sort of in the way they quickly react to the beast in a negative way without actually taking the time to find out more about him or who he is.
それは別にやっぱタックしちゃうとね、やっぱ結構装飾とか人間の現象でもあるんじゃないかな。
まあそうですよね。まあそういうことを含めて、やっぱりこう様々ないろんなね、まあジャスティンも一つの一種の、インターネットの世界があることによって、改めて正義とは何かっていうふうなことが問われている、なんかその正義を標榜する人物っていうのの一種のこう、うさんくささというか、そういった全て価値観をもう一回考え直さなきゃ、その新しい現実に対応できないんじゃないかみたいなことも含めて、この映画はいろんなそういう意味でも、これからの新しい、社会の要素がいろいろ詰まっていると思います。
Certainly, and even take the character Justin, I think it's important to reevaluate what justice really is in this new age with multiple realities. And him and his posse, of course, it's really easy to wave the banner of justice, but is that correct, and is that representative of everyone's values and our new set of values that we need to kind of adapt to because of the existence or birth of more than one reality?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. There's a lot of really, big themes about how we are using social media and also our broader social themes in the film. Sort of just shifting a little bit from the thematic aspects of the film, you always create very elaborate worlds and very detailed worlds in your films. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of not in too much detail, but the process of world building in creating you.
そうですね。まあやっぱね、こう、その今みたいないろんな、インターネットにまつわる要素、新しい生活にまつわる要素、これから社会が変化する時のものっていうのを、まあ、概念的に僕ら考えるんだけども、それをどういうふうにビジュアルにするかってことが大事なんですよね。で、サマーウォーズやデジモンの時っていうのは、すごい白い空間の、まあ、なんか余白のある空間の中にインターネット世界を作って、まだまだ発展するよっていうような意味で、まあ、コンセプチュアルにそういった意味ではこうデザインしたのがやっぱね、優になってくるとね、こうすごくもう本当現実と変わらないわけだけど、でもまあ現実と違うっていうこうそういう複雑な社会みたいなのを表現するのに、やっぱああいうこう天も地もない摩訶不思議な、まあ、都市っていうそういうものをこうビジュアルとして考えました。でそれを実はねデザイナーとして形にしてくれたのが、エリック・ウォンっていうイギリスにいる若い建築家なんですね。で彼は別にそのプロのその映画のなんかセットデザイナーとかそういうんじゃなくて今回映画の仕事が初めてなんですよ。で僕がインターネットの中で見つけて彼にその仕事を依頼したっていう、つまりそのインターネットっていうのはもう本当にもう全然有名じゃなくてももういい作品が作れる才能を持ったやつがいればもうすぐにもうそういうふうに映画に参加できちゃうっていう、そういう意味でもすごいダイナミズムですよね。だから映画で描いてることと現実にこの映画を作るためにやったことがすごくシンクロしてるっていう感じなんです。
The concept of the internet, I think, has many elements and components to it, and conceptually, we have all these ideas of what the internet or this cyberspace might look like. But how do we translate that into more visual cues that we can perceive through a screen? And in Digimon and Summer Wars, I used a lot of white space, and I think generally it felt really, really open. And that was kind of symbolic of where the internet was in its infancy. It seemed like there was a lot of extra space for it to grow. But in the world of you, I think the internet has become much closer. It's come much closer to our own reality in which we exist. And there are some components that are quite similar or the same, and other components that could be quite different from our current reality. But it's grown into a much more kind of complex social structure. You know, there's no up, there's no down. It's a very metropolitan, very dense kind of visual cues. So that was the concept of how used design or visual components came to be. And this is actually designed by an architect based in the UK named Eric Wong. And interestingly, he had no experience making movies. He was not a set designer by any means. But in our creative process, I think it's interesting because he wasn't necessarily famous, but he was really, really good. And we found him on the internet, which I think is very symbolic of this universe of you where almost anyone can interact with each other quite seamlessly. So even our movie making process had this real interesting kind of dynamic movement, and there was some parallels to be drawn between our creative process as well as what the world of you represents in many ways.
I love that. It was really as a global collaboration on building this global universe with you. So I understand. So you've started with really creating the world and then designing all of the characters that live within that world. Just if I'm correct.
そういう流れ世界観から
まあでもそれは同時ですね。
I would say that process happened simultaneously, both the character and the world concepting, character design and world concepting.
Well, it's really incredible. I think that it's you can tell it's that sort of a next level in the complexity and the design of the world as compared to some of your older films, such as Summer Wars. And I really appreciate how you actually not only thought about the themes and the story and the characters as representing our current state of online worlds, but also in the physical design of the actual space in which they're moving within the film.
もやっぱそういうのを意識されて作られてるような感じがしました。
そうですね。まあそういう部分ではまあ結構ね、やっぱりこの人間っていうかキャラクターもその現実というのところでその多面性を持っているし、街そのものもやっぱこうさまざまな多面性を持っているっていうような風に見えるように描きたいと思いました。例えばU っていうのは非常にグローバルな世界ですけども、一方でその現実世界では、地域がねグローバル経済によって非常にこう縮小したりなんかこう衰退していくような場所が登場してて、それをどっちがいいどっちが正解かって言ってるわけではなくて、両方ともその僕らが住んでる現実なんだっていうつもりで、その2つ合わさってねこの世界なんだっていうつもりで作りました。
I think, like you said, the human or characters that appear in the movie, like they have many faces. I believe so does the city or the sort of all the structures that we've built around us. It has many faces as well, and right now, you is a representative of a very kind of global space, and you think about the sort of global economy that we've transitioned to, and I think that people may not necessarily feel that it has effect on the countryside, but you look at the village that Suzu or town that Suzu comes from, and there is a very real kind of impact on these regional areas. And is that necessarily a good thing, or is it a byproduct of this transition to a global economy? I think it's more that is a part of the reality that we have created in this massive transition. So you need to kind of take into consideration both sides of that.
The ways in which our interconnectedness online and through our global economy has connected rural areas and communities as well as big cities in a way that has really caused a transition or a evolution of those areas as well.
Could you repeat that? So like the transition to the global economy?
同時にしなくても
Yes, I think, the ways in which, I think what Hosoda-san is saying is the ways in which the internet and our interconnectivity with our global marketplace has changed not only our cities and those bigger communities, but also the smaller, more rural communities and caused a transformation as well in those communities.
そうですね。やっぱね、まあ、作ってて思うのは、やっぱりね、世界の大きな流れの中で、やっぱり地方がね、その犠牲になってるような風になってたりもするんですけど、一方でやっぱり、この映画で描いたように、そういう、子供をね、やっぱり地域として、やっぱ見守りながら、育っていくっていう風なことも同時に、こういう世の中だからこそ、その大事さっていう風なものが浮かび上がるんじゃないかっていう風な気がします。
And and when making this movie, I think this sort of shift in transitioning to more of a global economy, the effect that it has on these more remote areas, it's often portrayed that these remote territories or areas or villages are the victims of globalization. But in a similar way, I think these sort of remote communities have an interesting way of kind of protecting the next generation in their own unique way, which I've also tried to portray in this movie.
Yes, definitely. That reads. I know we're getting a little bit short on time, so I just want to sort of move to sort of wrap up. But I wanted to. This is spoiler alert, but everybody should be watching this will have watched our film, your film. But so I wanted to ask, in the end, of course, Suzu, steps out of you and actually finds the identity of the beast and saves him in real life. So it is a very, very positive message, I think, both building on the original theme of Beauty and the Beast, which is, really looking beyond the surface and seeing the person underneath. But in this case, it's also a message about translating our actions online into real action in the world. So I just wanted to ask, in the end, if there is something or a message that you really hope that audiences leave with the theater with after watching your film.
メッセージがある。
やっぱね、これは本当におっしゃる通りでね、本当にこの現代において、美女と野獣、現代においての美女っていうのは、どういう人なんだろうってことを考えたんですよね。で、18世紀の美女と野獣ってもちろん封建社会の中での美女ですから、なんかこう、野獣には二面性があるのに、美女にはなんか、いまいち二面性があるようでないなって思ったんですよ。でもまあ、現代だったら、やっぱり非常にこう、どっちかというと美女の方の二面性っていうのが浮かび上がるんだろうというふうに思ったんですね。まあ、両方ですけどね。で、それで、やっぱり鈴っていうのはベルになることによって、ベルが、自由に振る舞うっていうふうなことだったり、強くベルがあることによって、オリジンである鈴も強くなっていく。自分自身によって自分自身が強くなって、大事なものを守れる強さを得ることになるっていう、そういうような人っていうのをなんかこう現代のにおける美女のなのかなっていうふうに思いました。で、そういうふうに、鈴とベルを描くことによって、18世紀から続く美女と野獣のコンセプトっていうのはアップデートして、さらにこう未来へとつながっていくものになったんじゃないかなと思うんですよね。
You're exactly right, and I've given a lot of consideration to what the definition of beauty might mean in the present day, and it rewind all the way back to the original classical Beauty and the Beast, which dates back to the 18th century in France. And I think it was a very male-dominated lens of what this symbolic, or what beauty is, which is very physical, it's very exterior. And in some way, how the Beast has a duality of elements, I felt that this idea of beauty should also have multiple, or a duality, or components that comprise it, which, it should have many sides. So you look at Suzu and BELLE. Suzu becomes BELLE in another reality, and in this other reality, she becomes very free and gains a lot of strength in many ways. And she takes this strength and feeds it back to Suzu, or herself in another reality, and she's able to harness it and take it back into the present. So it's almost this interesting self-motivating prophecy type of thing. So she now, in her other reality, has the strength to protect what really, really matters to her. And that, to me, is almost what seems very beautiful and could be considered beauty in today's world. So through Suzu and BELLE, I feel we've taken this story, or this concept that originated in 18th century France, and kind of brought that into present day, and we can therefore pass it on to future generations.
I love that. I love that. And I think that is a wonderful message for us to end on today. So another just really, really huge, huge mahalo, as we say in Hawaii, for being with us today and having this discussion. We so wish you could be with us in person, but hopefully next time we can invite you to Hawaii to be with us here. Thank you so much.
いや、本当ですよ。もう本当にね、今リモートであることがもったいないです。ぜひハワイの国際映画祭にぜひ招待してください。そして直接皆さんの前で自分の映画を見てもらうようにアピールしたい、そういう機会を得たいと思っています。ぜひ読んでください。今日はどうもありがとうございます。
I really, really agree with what you said. It's a shame that we have to do this remotely, but hopefully in the not too distant future, there'll be an opportunity where I can be invited to the Hawaii International Film Festival and speak to the fans directly and see their reactions in person.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait. So before we go today, I just also want to again extend a big mahalo to all of our sponsors, our board, our HIFF Ohana members. Thank you all for joining us today and for this entire 11 days here in person at HIFF. We will continue going on till the 28th virtually. So you can find out all the information about what's happening at HIFF online at hiff.org. That's the best place to check it out. And last but not least, we are also screening this film on the neighbor islands in Hilo during the Hilo showcase, and on Kauai at the Waimea Theater. So please tell your friends and family on the neighbor islands to check it out. Thanks, everybody, and thank you again, Hosoda-san.
どうもありがとうございます。どうもありがとう。ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.